Hey loves, thanks for tuning in to CYBTV. This is Cherish, and I'm going to be showing you guys how I made this super cute off-the-shoulder denim jacket. So if you want to see how I got this, then keep on watching. I will be showing you guys step by step. This is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1 of the illustration, please go watch that. And yeah, so I am starting with this pair of jeans. I got these from the Goodwill, and they were only $5, $3 or $5. And all I'm doing here is making sure the pants are going to fit around my shoulders. So the waist of the pants should fit across my shoulders. And now I'm measuring down from the shoulder to where I want my jacket to end. And it's looking around 21 inches. So once I determine my length, I am ready to cut. I'm going to cut off the pant legs, you guys. So once you cut, there's no turning back. So be careful. I'm going to put these pant legs to the side because we are going to use those later. And now I'm going to cut up the seam, and I'm going to cut the crotch just so I can open up the jacket. Now what I'm doing here is cutting up from where the zipper is, you guys. I'm cutting about an inch up from that because we are going to create a whole new opening and flap for the buttons. So this is a little try on. You can try on the pieces after you've already done a certain step just to make sure everything is going okay. So right now this is what it looks like. It is fitting across my shoulders the way I want it to. You can leave it zipped or unzipped or zip it up a little more. Now I'm going to do a little bit more detailed. I'm going to cut off that zipper part at the bottom, and that way I can sew down that flap when I'm ready to. Now it's time to cut off the pockets so we can have a hole for the armhole, you guys, for the sleeves. So most pockets come this way, so you will know exactly what to cut off just by seeing me do it. So we're just going to cut off that excess. And like I said, this is for the sleeves. So now this is a tricky part, you guys. This is more of making a pattern, but I will be more detailed later. But let's go ahead and shoot for about 500 likes, and I will definitely continue showing you guys some more on fashion. But anyways, all I'm doing is I'm tracing the armhole of a sweater or anything that I felt I liked the way it fits for my sleeves, and I'm tracing that. Once I'm done tracing the front, I'm going to trace the back. Now this is where I'm going to just kind of straighten out my lines and make sure everything is going to connect properly. The front and the back of the armholes are always different. That's just because the front is a little bit different than the back on our bodies. So what I'm doing is I'm using muslin to trace the armhole of the sweater and the full sleeve. That way I can cut this out and use it for later and use it to create my sleeve for the jacket as well. So once I cut out the pattern, I am now going to make sure I have everything labeled. So you want to label the front of the sleeve and the back of the sleeve, and also the front or the top of the sleeve. And now I'm going to walk the pattern just to make sure it's going to line up before I cut out the armhole on the actual garment. So that part, you guys, that's actually the top of the sleeve, which we're not going to be using because it is off shoulder. But I'm not going to cut it off the pattern because, like I said, I want to use it for later. So all I'm going to do is start from the cut off of the shoulder and walk the pattern to make sure it's going to fit properly. So you want to do the front and the back. And there you go. Now it's time to cut out the armhole on the actual garment or jacket that we're creating, you guys. You want to be careful. This is cutting a 1/2 inch away from the actual drawing because you need room to sew. So as you can see, I'm not cutting directly on the markings, on the blue markings. I am cutting a 1/2 inch away. Now, as you guys can see, I have an armhole forming. And here it is on. I go on and try it on every time just to make sure it's turning out. So you guys should do that as well. So you can unzip it a little bit more to have a little bit more room, but I keep it up zipped. And yeah, it's looking good so far. So now we're gonna put that to the side and move on to this finishing the sleeves, you guys. So I used that pattern and I went on and cut out the sleeve. Remember, you're cutting a 1/2 inch away from the actual pattern for seam allowance or for sewing room. So that's all I'm doing, is using my pattern to make sure it is the same size with the 1/2 inch extra. And be sure to mark the front and the back of the actual fabric that we're going to be using, which is the jean or the denim. So now I'm going to cut out the second sleeve, and notice I flipped over the sleeve to get a different side for the pattern, so you can have two separate ones instead of the same sides. Hopefully that made sense. And again, be sure to mark the front and the back of each sleeve and make sure they are lining up. So I have them face to face just to make sure I'm having two separate sleeves for each side of the jacket, and I'm making sure they are even. Okay, you guys, finally it's sewing time. All I'm going to do is sew the side of the sleeves. So we're gonna close it up. So we're sewing it in 1/2 inch all the way down. And now I'm going to fit the sleeve inside of the armhole for the jacket. And as you can see, there's excess fabric. That is because, remember, it's off shoulder, so we do not need the top of the sleeve. That will be cut off later, but you want to make sure you fit the sleeve in all the way. That way when you sew, it's nice and even. So you're going to sew the armhole 1/2 inch all the way around. And there you have it. There's one sleeve on, you guys. So now I'm going to cut off that excess, which was the top of the shoulder, which we do not need because it is an off-shoulder jacket. So once we're finished with the one sleeve, we're going to do the same to the other side. And once we're finished with the sleeves, you guys, now it's time to close up the jacket. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure I get all the excess fabric, and I'm going to taper the back to close it up. So I'm going to start from where that sewing stops, and we're going to go all the way down from there. You can use a ruler to make sure it's a straight line. And then we're going to sew down. This is so you can have a smooth transition and the back will close up nicely. I went on and cut off that excess fabric. Now it's time to go in for creating the closure for the buttons. So all I'm doing is tucking the excess underneath, you guys. That simple. And what I've already done is I sewn around the excess. So I did 1/8 of an inch on the edge and then also 1/8 of the inch on the inside edge, just to sew it down to create that extra flap for the buttons. And now I'm going to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to start off with sewing 1/8 of an inch from that edge, and then I'm going to flip it over and sew 1/8 of an inch from the other edge, all the way up until I get to the end of the flap. So there you have it. And now right here, you guys, all I did was stitch the hem. So you can do a base stitch or you can actually stitch it. That way you'll know where to hem the jacket. So I went on and did that all the way around. And that way, so I know where to place the buttons. So the buttons have the instructions on the back of the box. These are the heavy duty snaps and they come 7 in a pack. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these buttons on. After that, I'm going to go back to my hem and I'm going to take out that stitch, and now I'm going to tuck the unfinished raw edge underneath. That way it can look cleaner. And I'm going to sew that 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And there you have it, you guys. Nice clean hem, no ruffles or anything. Now normally you would use an overlock machine for like other unfinished edges. So this is the finished product, but as you can see when you open that up, I do have that unfinished edge. You would overlock that. But other than that, I'm pleased with it. I don't have my overlock machine. That's a whole nother story, but this is the finished product, and I really liked how it came out. You can actually keep it unzipped like that, and it can hang over a little more, rolled up the sleeves. So let me just show you guys how it looks on again and in different angles. Thanks for watching and subscribe.